Hi, so if you've been following the news, you've probably heard or read that Chat GPT reached 100 million users in January. So I decided to do some research. There's this great article on DemandSage, I'll link it in the description, by a chap called Daniel Ruby, published just 5 days ago on February the 8th. And in this, there's quite an interesting section, Chat GPT statistics at a glance. And point number 4, it states that they crossed 100 million users in January 2023, and that apparently they are gaining 13 million individual active users every single day. Now, while that's extremely impressive, it helps if you can visualize what does that really mean. We need to see it in context. How does it compare to other technologies that people have adopted from the past? So I did a little bit more research, and I found an article on Business Insider that compares a number of technologies, but the highlight is the Candy Crush saga, which reached 100 million users in over a year, comparing it to the telephone, which took 75 years. So we've gone from 75 years for the telephone. It has this useful graphic here, so 1878, down to Candy Crush in 2012, which took just over a year, and ChatGPT has done that in under 2 months. Although strictly speaking, that's ChatGPT 3, because ChatGPT itself has been available since 2020. But if we just compare version 3, which was made public in, I think it was late November, early December last year, you're basically talking 2 months. So you probably couldn't even plot it. It's such a thin line on this graph. But I will try. What's interesting is that Candy Crush is just a game. It's not particularly useful, doesn't make anybody really any more productive. It's just a leisure product. Whereas things like WhatsApp and Instagram do provide value to people. The mobile phone, obviously, and the internet, they increase people's productivity, which is exactly what Chat GPT is doing. And what's interesting is that the media, I don't think, has quite grasped the magnitude of this, because you see headlines like this one, for example, Google shares plunge after its new ChatGPT AI competitor gives wrong answer to a question. People are still seeing this tool like a question answer tool, like search, like trying to find information. It's way, way more than that. It's basically an intelligent assistant that will make so many jobs, so many tasks more productive, more efficient. You can use it to generate ideas. It's not just a search tool. The way to think of it is, think of how more productive society became with the invention of the telephone, and that took 75 years. But now ideas spread more quickly because we're so more connected, and therefore, obviously, ChatGPT has been greatly accelerated by that, and therefore grow a lot more quickly. But one of the reasons, or the main reason, I would argue, of why it has grown so quickly compared to even something like Candy Crush or Instagram or WhatsApp, which are relatively recent inventions, is because it makes us more efficient at the things that we have to do every day in our lives and in our jobs. And that is just going to continue to accelerate. So I can imagine that version 4 will probably reach 100 million users in a matter of days. Insane to think about. I did a little bit more digging. Here's another interesting way to look at it, which is against recessions, how different technologies grew. And you can see here in the recession in the 30s, the AM radio just didn't care, just blasted straight through. And the same when we look here at the internet. There's a recession in the early 2000s and around the 2007-8 mark, and it didn't really have an impact, not really, on the growth of the internet. And you can see the mobile smartphone, again, it just blew through the recession because these technologies empower us. They give us more capabilities. They make us more efficient, more connected. And so if you have a technology like that, the adoption rate will just be well, like this. And if you try to plot on here, say Chat GPT, well, I think by my calculations, this is the US, by the way, so this is percentage of population penetration in the US. So with 100 million users, it's way past that by now. It must be 150 million already. But if we assume that roughly 50 to 60 million of those users are in the US, then that's approximately 25 to 30% population penetration already, which means that in 2 months, if you drew a line on this graph at 2023 here, it's basically a straight line from 0 to, say, 25%, literally straight up to here. So you can see that is not going to stop. It's just incredible how fast this is growing.